So Navy. What'd you do in the Navy?
Ooh. I enjoyed it. I loved it.
I'll bet.
I wish I would have took more advantage of it.
Yeah.
But I signed up for submarines only because I went into the recruiting station, and on the wall right above one of the recruiters was a Popular Mechanics spread, and it was a nuclear-powered submarine, trifold, open. And I said, what the heck is that? And he said, that's a nuclear-powered submarine. Can't remember the class. It could have been probably like a Los Angeles class back then. This was probably 30 plus years ago. And I said, wow, could I be on something like that? And he said, you'd want to? And I'm like, if you think about it, either you can be an astronaut or you could be on a submarine. They're kind of like the same thing, right? You're going to be in confined spaces, separated from the world, hidden. And it looks pretty elite to me.
And if something bad happens, you're completely screwed.
Yeah, but when you're 16 years old, by the way, you don't think about stuff like that, you know. So when I went to the recruiting station, the only reason I was down there, because I said I would never join the military because my dad was in the Army and he was never around. I took the ASVAB test at Votech, and I didn't want to do it, but they said, hey, if you're not going to go to college and you're already taking Votech your junior year and you're going to take it next year, then maybe you should look at a career in the military, and the military people are going to come and do the ASVAB test. I said, I have no desire to join the military. And they said, well, everybody at Votech is going to be taking a class. You'll be the only one sitting in electronics. But what we'll do is if you go take that class, we'll give you a bag of chips and a Coca-Cola. I said, I'm in. So I took the test. Honestly, I just, messed around with it, didn't put too much into it. And then it was my year from graduating as a junior, summer year before senior, I started getting phone calls from a guy named Vic. Mm-hmm. And I worked at a grocery store, try to help my parents, pay the bills. My mom said, hey, a guy named Vic keeps calling for you. I'm like, oh, Mom, it's 10 o'clock at night. Just got home from the grocery store. And she just kept saying, Vic's calling. I'm like, I'm a 16-year-old kid. I don't know grown people. Like, I know my dad's Army buddies, but I don't know a Vic.
Yeah.
And finally, I called him back. And I said, hey, heard you've been calling for me. He's like, yeah, man, it's Vic. How you doing, Cory? I'm like he knows me. And I'm like, do I know you? He's like, yeah. Remember you came to a barbecue at so-and-so's house, my dad's Army buddy off base, right? And he said, I was the next door neighbor. I was there. Oh, why are you calling me? He said, well, I'm in the Navy. I'm like, you're in the Navy? But my dad's Army, right? It was an Army, guy barbecue. And he's like, yeah, I'm in the Navy. I run the recruiting station.
Go figure.
I'm calling you because we got your ASVAB scores. Yeah? Okay, so what does that mean? You did pretty good. It's like, you crushed it in electronics. I'm like, yeah, I go to Votech, I'm probably going to get a job at Kickers, and I'm going to make, big boom boxes. And, being that I was in Oklahoma, by the way, Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Yep.
My dad got called up for Desert Storm, so he got called up on 3-year order. So he picked us up from West Virginia, took us back out there. But yeah, I was in Oklahoma. And he says, man, I'd like to talk to you about the Navy. I'm like, okay, well, Nick, I know you, Vic, or whatever. So I said, well, let me jump on my motorcycle. I had a 250 Honda XR Enduro, rode that everywhere. Went down there, and that's when I went to his office. And he was the guy in charge, but he had other recruiters, that were younger guys. And that's when I saw that Popular Mechanics spread. And it just drew my attention. I'm like, wow, that thing has some electronics on it, right? I see missiles and torpedoes and things like that. And they're like, hey, we got your ASVAB score. And if you really want to be on something like that, most definitely you qualify. And I said, well, okay, but I'm just 16 years old. Oh, man, you're not even old enough to enlist, bro. You got to turn 17 and come back, with your parents, permission. And I said, okay, I'll be back on my 17th birthday. And senior year, August 24th, 1992. Turned 17, first day of school, got on my motorcycle, went straight to the recruiting office, said, hey, I'm 17 now. Let's talk a little bit more about this submarine and the delayed entry program.
Yeah.
And yeah, they got me, man. They said, yeah, this is like only 1% of the people in the Navy can be a submariner. So it's elite. I'm like, oh man, I love that. And we're going to give you base pay, sub pay, sea pay, hazard pay. And I'm like, man, I'm making $4.25 an hour at the grocery store, cleaning toilets, scrubbing the blood out of the meat section when the butchers are done, sweeping the cigarette butts out of the parking lot. I'm doing all the grunt work for $4.25 an hour. And you're telling me you're going to pay me all this money? And he said, man, we're going to send you to school. You're going to go to the best electronic schools. And he said, we're going to put you in a program. It's a 6-year contract obligation. And it's called the Advanced Electronic Computer Field Program. It's a 6-year commitment. Your first year, you're going to be going to schools. He said, we could put you in the nuclear power program, but it's going to be a 2-year commitment. I said, I hate school. Man, I got a 2.7 GPA. And the only reason I have that is because in my junior and senior year, I keep taking gym over and over again to fluff my average, right? I said, yeah, I don't think I'd be a fit. I don't want anything to do with school. He said, okay, well, we'll just put you in a 6-year, non-nuclear version of the Advanced Electronic Computer Field. And I said, man, let's do it. And he said, but your parents got to sign for you. I said, oh man, well, good luck, because my mom is Jehovah's Witness. They don't believe him in the military, even though my dad's in the Army. She got into it after my dad joined and deployed. Then she became. And I said, man, you're gonna have to get through my mom. And he said, listen, I'll come to your house, and if you're telling me you want to do this, you just look her in the eye and say, Mom, this is what I want to do. And so we did it. Went over there, sat down, and had my dad there and my mom there. And, my dad's like, oh, my boy, he's not military material like me. My dad in the Army, they called him the freaking hammer, bro. He was a beast. And I'm like, oh, my dad doesn't believe in me. My mom says, we shouldn't do that stuff. And I said, but you know what? I want to get as far away from my family as I can. I'm from Charlestown, West Virginia. Nothing good comes out of West Virginia, right? Straight poverty. And I know as soon as my dad's enlistment's up, we got to go back to being poor again. I don't want to do that. I'm never going back to poverty. Yeah. So I looked my mom in the eye and said, listen, this man has given me an opportunity to do computer stuff. And I'm a computer guy. When computers were first coming out, video games. I was recording my video games on Betamax, bro, way before YouTube was a thing, right? And people made fun of me and clowned me. Oh, man, look at this guy. It's like living with computers, So I said, Mom, if you don't sign these papers, I promise you when I turn 18, I will join Special Forces. And I promise you I will kill as many people as I can. She said, son, where do I sign? As long as you promise me that you don't pick up a weapon, then I'll sign for you. And I signed, 17 years old, 6-year commitment. So that's how it started with me in the military. It was getting away from my family and just trying to make my own way, in the world. And the Navy, they saw something in me that nobody else saw in me. And I was skinny like you, bro. I was 171 pounds. I had to go eat a bunch of Big Macs just to pick up weight. I was underweight. And I said, listen, if you guys think I can do it and you believe in me, you guys got the uniform on, then I'll do it. Just tell me what I need to do.
God, I would give anything to be able to weigh 171 pounds. I've never weighed over 150 in my life. And there was one time I was in Colorado, Fort Carson. And the way the winds or the mountains are down there, the winds get insane. Like we've had the street lights, the traffic signal lights fall into people's cars and shit. And at 150 pounds, soaking wet, full gear and everything, I'm holding on to this bigger dude next to me just so I don't get blown around. I'll look like Piglet fucking flying in the wind. But no, I always loved submarines until I watched Hunt for Red October. Loved the movie, made me realize that I could not do a submarine. But I'm curious how you can do a submarine as tall as you fucking are.
I get that a lot. So the first thing is, I believe there is a height requirement, but being in the military, there's a waiver for everything. And when you have a priority billet, which is typically the ones you have to volunteer for, and you have to either have the physical capability or mental, you're going to get a waiver because they need people. So I think I may have gotten a waiver. Honestly, I don't know, but they need submariners. They're 1%. Like SEALs are 1% of the Navy, and so are submariners, right? So it's a priority billet. So when I signed up for it, they were just, wow, they will always say this, submarine is an all volunteer service. They can never push you in to that. I just said, listen, I want to do it. They didn't have to sell me. I sold myself. I saw the popular mechanics and I said, I'll do whatever it takes. to do it. And my dad, he did say, son, if you're really going to do this, when you get in there, make sure you read all the regulations, learn the rules, because most people in the military, they don't read it. There's going to be people that are probably less educated than you, and they'll probably be like in authority over you, and they're going to hate you for that. So my dad prepped me pretty good. And, you know, we have this acronym, Navy, never again volunteer yourself, right? And my dad just says, when you get in there and they ask you to do things, just do it. Find favor. And that was my first opportunity. Volunteer for the Navy, volunteer for submarine service. And everything that they ever asked me to volunteer for, I said yes. So I went submarines. I served on a nuclear power submarine. And the height thing is, if you were really on a submarine, you would like immediately you would know it's not small. A fast attack is the length of a football field, and it's 33 feet in diameter, right? So if you think about it and you cut it in thirds, that's 10 feet. But you got a lot of equipment hanging. The only part that's going to be a challenge for tall people is when you're going through, and I don't even know what they call them anymore, but the holes, right?
The bulkheads.
The bulkheads, right? That and then berthing, because berthing is exactly 6 feet. So yes, my feet were hanging off, but again, I volunteered to sleep in a torpedo room. So we had what's called coffin racks that they were movable, and they were a little bit longer than 6 feet. And what we did was we put them on top of torpedoes. I slept in the torpedo room on a larger rack. So that's how I got away with, you know, not being able to stick to the little berthing. So I did that. And then that sub got hit off the coast of Hong Kong by a cargo ship.
Oh, wow.
So we had to decommission that. And then they needed volunteers for the USS Dolphin. Now that was a sub, I believe, was commissioned like maybe in the 50s. It was the deepest diving submarine that we owned. It was a special project submarine. It would go down 2,000 feet. And anything that could work at 2,000 feet under the water, like new weapon technology, sonar, then it would work at least 1,000 feet underwater.
Yeah.
So I volunteered for that. So that's what got me my warfare of deep submergence. So that, you know, if you go in that route in the sub, it's like a subsection of the submarine service. So I did that. I became what they call we call it DBF, diesel boat forever, but it was deep submergence. So I was part of the deep submergence crew. It's maybe, if I remember correctly, probably 49 sailors on that versus a nuclear power attack, maybe 130 sailors. So I did that, volunteered for that. That joker actually caught on fire off the coast of San Diego. Everybody abandoned ship, and then they decommed that one as well. And from that, they had another push for another special project. It was called Near Term Mine Reconnaissance, which was a torpedo that was fired from a submarine, but guided with 50 miles of fiber optic cable.
Oh.
And its sole purpose was to hunt mines underwater. Kind of like what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, right? You put the mines. We send an unmanned vehicle that we control, remote control, to map out the minefield. And then we send the data back to the fleet, and then EOD would go in there and dispose of it and move it out the way. So then recon, the Marines and all those guys can, you know, go ashore. So again, they're like, hey, we got this special unit and we're looking for people with a submarine background that also know electronics, right? Because you got to work with Northrop Grumman. You know, they're the ones who invented this thing. So I said, well, you know what? That sounds cool. I'll do it. And I did that. And then they're like, yeah, now we need a push for recruiting. We're looking for volunteers to go on recruiting duty. And I'm like, tell me more.
All right, let's do it.
I did it. You know, they would always get me at, but if you do this, you know, you get paid more. Like, wait a minute, recruiters get paid $375 extra per month, and there's no cap on how many people you can meritoriously advance. Sign me up, I'm in. So that was my whole 8.5-year career. You know, most people will spend 4 years at one command. I've never spent 4 years at one command. I kept volunteering myself to get out of a command to do something else. So I probably was, in 8.5 years, probably 4 or 5 different commands that I was in. So I learned very quickly, take the jobs that nobody wants to do. And if it's in your service record, they're like, that guy right there, we can get him to do stuff, right? But then finally it came down after recruiting duty. They're like, hey, you're an E6. You're going to be up for E7 real soon. We need you on a Trident submarine. Those are the beasts. We want you to go to Kings Bay, Georgia. And I'm like, no, sir. I will never go back to the East. I'm from West Virginia, and I was in Florida recruiting. I'm like, I found my niche. I'm a recruiter. I will be a lifelong recruiter. I like speaking to young kids that come from a similar background as me. Rural America, country, poverty. I was stationed in an area of Florida where, honestly, it was a lot of immigrants that were coming over, picking, oranges, Tropicana. It's a place called Bradenton, Florida, Ellington, Florida, Parish. It's like country, poor, poverty. And I said, you know what? These kids are the sons of farmers. And I know I'm from West Virginia. And I said, these are the people that need to know there's an opportunity to get them out of poverty. And I did a good job. I was shipping 40 people a year in the military. The quota was only like 15 a year. I was doing 40 a year, just shipping them off. And I said, I'm going to stay recruiting. This is where I believe I'm going to get you'll get the best bang for your dollar from Petty Officer Kammerdiener if you let me stay in recruiting, and then give me a tour of being a company commander. I always wanted to do that. But they said, no, you're more valuable going on a ballistic missile submarine. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be underwater for going out 6 months because I don't feel that there's anything of value I could offer. My talents will be underutilized. And they said, well, then you had to get out. And they offered me $45,000. Like, sign, we'll give you $45,000. They give you half of the bonus up front. And I said, it's not about the money anymore. I found my calling, and it's in sales, representing the greatest military on planet Earth. And I could prove it. And so they said, no, we're not going to let you stay. So I'm like, yeah, they're just talking crap. I'm a recruiter. Even if they let me go out, I'll just go back and join at a recruiting station. I know the whole process of getting in. But I ended up switching over to the reserves after that for 4 years. The whole first year, I tried going back active duty. And
they blocked you.
They downsized, right? And I've had a lot of people were fighting for me, like, hey, Petty Officer Kammerdiener, he recruit. Like, I literally ran the recruiting station with recruiters under me. Made gold in a recruiting station that never made gold since 1979 when it was open. So I had all the awards, all the accolades. But, politicians at, the place where they give you the orders, right? You got to know those people to get the good billets. And I didn't know them. I just was a grunt out in the field. So, I tried going back in. I even said, listen, we're now at war. I got out literally 2 months after the towers fell. Like, my orders were already in. So I'm like, you guys are going to need more people to join. I can get these people to join. So I said, you know what? If you guys aren't going to bring me back in, I'll take a pay cut, bust me down to an E5, make me an MP. I'll go to Afghanistan. I'll go to Iraq, wherever you want me to go. I'll just guard a freaking base. They're like, yeah, we can't do that. Make me a master at arms. And that was like the end. I knew I couldn't go back active. So I just did my 4 years reserves over at Old Spanish Trail.
Okay.
Finished up my time, went TAD, a couple times to different places to support, whatever command needed support. And then finally it was like, I'm done. The Navy don't want me anymore. What am I going to do now? And so I got a civilian job, became a headhunting guy. You probably heard of Bradley Morris, Orion International, the Lucas Group. These are these recruiting agencies that when you get out of the military, they come to the TAP class or the ACAP class, and they say, we're going to have you interview with these different companies, right? Show you how to dress and do your resume. So I end up being a headhunter, recruiting people out of the military and helping them with Fortune 500 companies getting positions, recruiting the same people out of the Navy that I was putting in the Navies, the gas turbine techs, nuclear engineers, and economy just went bad. And 6 months in that job, they laid me off. So I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? I was running a recruiting station. I was an E6. I made E7 board in the reserves. And I'm like, I don't have a job, right? Civilian world, they don't value your military background. And I get it. They don't understand it. They don't know it. But I found myself really quickly without a job, just closed on a home, couldn't pay the mortgage. My income in the military way back then, 30 plus years ago, was equivalent to about $68,000 a year. And I found myself working at Best Buy in Katy, Texas. And they're like, we got this thing called the Geek Squad. We're about to start. And we know you got a computer background. We typically pay $9 an hour, but because you served your country, we'll bump you up $1. I think they pay me like $10.40 or something. And they said, all you got to do When people come in, they want to buy a computer, open it up, turn it on, make sure it works before they leave with it, and then sell them antivirus software, right? And I said, well, I always thought about selling electronics. I've always fixed it, but I always wanted to try my hand at selling, right? And I'm a recruiter, so I know I could sell. So I did that, and but still wasn't enough money. So in the morning, I did that, starting at 4:30 a.m., probably to about 3. And then after that job, I went to go work at Bassett Furniture, selling furniture. Had 2 sales jobs, right? I'm like, let me see if I can sell furniture. And I had those 2 jobs. That was the rise of eBay. And I said, well, this is enough money. I'm going to sell crap on eBay. So I started selling crap on eBay. And it was just, I was working like 4 jobs. And I said, something's got to give. And lo and behold, I get a call from one of my buddies that also left the company, the headhunting firm, and said, hey, I work for the largest family-owned builder in the state of Texas called Royce Homes. And they now have a website. And they're looking for people that can make phone calls of internet leads. And I'm like, well, damn, dude, I was working internet leads in the Navy, Navy.com. When they would run commercials on TV, the leads would come down to my computer and I'd call them and say, hey, I'm your local recruiter. And I'm like, I could do that. And he says, okay, come and interview. So I went over there. And at first I kept turning them down, right? Hey, I don't know anything about selling homes. I hate civilians. I hate corporations. I'm trying to go back in the military. So that first year he was calling me. I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing about civilians because I'm going to go back in the military. But once they finally shut the door, I said, man, I'm working all these jobs and, I'll take a look at what you got. And they gave me a little profile test. And he said, man, I'm going to be honest with you. The owners are Aggies. And everybody that works there are Aggies. You have no college degree. You're not part of the good old boy network, right? And I said, yeah, I hate college, man, And he said, but they're willing to give you a chance because I told them you served in the military and you're a beast on the phones. And he said, this is the offer they're going to give you. Your first month, they're going to pay you $1,500. The second month, they're going to pay you $1,000. In your third month, they're going to pay you $500 for the month. They'll pay your cell phone, give you a computer, laptop, and pay your gas. If you don't get out there and sell homes, you're going to fire yourself. And I said, well, man, I was putting in 3 to 4 people a month in the military, selling them on something you can't touch. You can't see it. We didn't have no military base around. But yet I was killing it, selling something that's not even tangible. People can see the house. I can walk them through the house. They can smell the house. They can touch the house. I said, I don't think I'm going to have a problem. Just get me in front of the people. And he said, okay, let's see what you can do. So not knowing how to sell any houses, I went in there the first year and I sold $3 million all over the city of Houston. They had like 32 neighborhoods. They gave me the master key to every house they built and said, just get out there and find people, drag them to our communities, drive them around and send them over to the mortgage company. And didn't really know how to do the paperwork, had to fumble through that. And that's what I did. So that's, what changed my life right there really was working for that builder. Now, they were still corporate America. I despised all these people because, again, it was a good old boy network, right? So I'm out here hustling and grinding, but I wasn't in their little circle. So I just kept my nose down, did what they told me. And one of the things I learned with corporate America, you could do the best for these people, make them tons of money.
And they don't care.
But if you're not in their inner circle, bro, you're just another body, right? There is no emotions, there's no, you're my employee, I'm your boss. And, let's talk like we call it NCOs, right? Your non-commissioned officers, they would set you down. Hey, son, you're dragging on your PT test or, your appearance is jacked up. Let's talk. What's going on? Because I got to get you squared away because if we got to go fight, I need squared away people. They don't care about that in corporate America. And I'd walk by the halls past the owners and the kids and wouldn't even say, how you doing today? Wouldn't even acknowledge my name. And then when money gets tight with these companies, they find ways to cut costs. And they're like, hey, this guy's making a bunch of money because I put a system together. I learned how to fix credit while I work for these guys. A lot of people have bad credit. I learned how to fix that because I understood how the ASFAB worked, right? Once you understand the math behind the ASFAB, you can train someone to pass that test. It's the same thing with credit scoring. It's an algorithm. I learned that very quickly to get more people qualified. And they say, listen, we're going to touch your pay. We're going to change it. or you're going to make less money now. Can we talk about it? No, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. That's what they told me. I said, you know what? I'm done with you people. I'm going to go get my real estate license because I see how you treat real estate agents. Real estate agents bring you all the business and you kiss their butt. You give them like 5 times more income than me. And even when they do stuff that's illegal, wrong, unethical, you say, don't worry about it because they're the ones who feed us. So I said, you know what? You guys have zero loyalty. So what I'm going to do, and I didn't tell them this, but I took my 7 days vacation, went and got my real estate license, and I sold a bunch of houses very quickly, came back and said, I no longer work for you people. And that's the last time I worked for corporate America. That was in December of 2004, the last time I had an employer.
If you really want to figure out just how good an employer is, just watch how they treat the lower employees, especially even like the janitors. If you're working for a company that can't even treat the janitors or the maintenance people correctly, then they're not worth it. They're just going to treat you like crap too and use you and discard you as soon as it's prevalent to what they want.
Yeah. See, we look at the janitor as, hey, that might be your starting position, but if you do a good job, there could be upward mobility. You might come in as an E1, might leave as an E4. Mm-hmm. The thing is the chain of command, there will always be people exiting and there will always be people filling their position, right? Corporate America, they don't think that way. They think, hey, you're just a number at your level and we can always replace you at your level. They're not thinking long-term like, hey, this guy started in the mailroom. Today, he could be a manager over 150 salespeople.
Well, even at that, the guy that works in the mailroom could be the CEO one day just because he's better, he's smarter, younger, faster, more talented. I mean, you got to treat everyone with the same amount of respect.
You got to earn the loyalty from your employees because at the end of the day, you cannot have a business or company without employees. That's what we call the people problem in business, right? So to get rid of the people problem is you got to treat these people as family. So this is why my company, which I eventually started, our logo is one brand, one family. So I couldn't find that in corporate America. So I had to reinvent the military in my company, right? And make everybody feel appreciated. You're part of the bigger vision and mission. And one day you might be the guy running the company because I'm eventually going to die, right? Or I'm going to get old, don't want to
retire, yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's just like with this. I mean, if I had every guest come on and I treated them like shit, I ain't going to have a guest.
Yeah.
Therefore, I ain't going to have a podcast and I'm not going to have a nonprofit. So it works in so many different facets of life that it's amazing how many people don't even take just the simple courtesy of respect and empathy into account when they're dealing with just even a stranger at the store.
That's true.
Let alone an employee or an employer or whatever.
Yeah. You never know when you're going to run into someone again in life. And I've had this anomaly happen so many times. I'm in Pearl Harbor standing at a bus station and a young kid walks right by me and he's looking at me crazy. And I'm like, buddy, you got a problem? No. You look familiar. You went to Lawton High, right? I'm like, yeah. He says, Ray, who was in my driver's ed class, he was 2 grades behind me. See, I started school young. So I was in driver's ed with a lot of young kids, right? And I'm like, dude, what's the odds that you're in the Navy and you're in Pearl and you're walking to a bus stop? And then in boot camp, when I graduated in San Diego, a kid I hadn't seen for decades that I went to like middle school walks right by me on the recruit training command. And I look at him like, dude, I haven't seen you for like a decade in middle school. Just walks. And now we're from West Virginia. Now we're in San Diego and he walks right by me, bro. So many times that's happened.
Same thing happened with me. I went to school. Part of my high school was in Midwest City, Oklahoma. My uncle was stationed in Fort Sill, so I knew about Lawton. But I came down to Texas, graduated down here. My first duty station was Germany. In the small Vilsec Rose Barracks I was at, went in the subway, and the lady behind the counter was like, I know you. Said my name. I was like, how the fuck? Come to think about it, she went to my high school in Oklahoma, married a soldier, got deployed to Germany, and now she's working at Subway. I'm like, just like you were saying, it's such a fucking small
That's
world, and
it.
you
That's
don't
it.
realize it until it happens.
Dude, there's billions of people on this earth, and it is big, but the thing is it's either it's a supernatural coincidence that was forced to happen, because I don't really believe in coincidence, but I don't know, maybe it happened to us because we needed to understand that, you know, I think sometimes, especially with vets who fall into depression, is because they feel like they're alone. So I think sometimes these little anomalies
Reminders.
just saying, listen, you're not alone, and there is someone who organized your life, someone intelligent design, right? So that we don't forget that, because honestly, that's the number one thing that I believe is wrong. Not wrong, but the issue with humans is they feel alone, right? And that's why God said in the beginning, it's not good for man to be alone, right? So I think those things happen to let us know that there's someone controlling something, and you're never alone. Someone's watching over you.
Because there's always, I mean, we're a very sociable race as humans, and it's insane that there are some people that can stay alone for years and be happy. I could probably do it, but then there's some people that you leave them alone for 5, 10, 15 minutes that they're losing their mind. They got to have that other person next to them, whether it's just the other person being a body double or actually being there helping them or whatever. But yeah, we are such sociable creatures.
Yeah. Multiply the earth. Can't do that without being sociable and doing the nasty.
That'd be weird. I don't know. If women had their way, they would just be able to clone babies. They don't want men. They could do it without us.
Yeah, that's just based on where you're from, where you're raised. You know, that's a mind thing.
So going back to the military, what was a day in the life of a submariner like?
So either you're in port or you're underway. So if you're in port, I guess, I don't know, I remember getting up before the sun came up. So get up, go to the galley, get you something to eat. And based on your MOS, which is, we call it rating in the Navy, your job, you would just go down to the boat. Like me, I would so if you're in an engineering type field, we're not going to wait for something to break and then fix it. We're going to do preventive maintenance on it, right? Just like you do with your car, right? You're going to change your oil every 3,000 miles. So that would be what we would do. We would do preventive maintenance on all the technical stuff that we had to do. If you were a mechanic, you were doing all the mechanic stuff. And, you know, if you're an admin person, it's just like a traditional company. If you're an admin and you're doing the payroll and service records, if you're a medical, you would do, you know, hey, if anybody got sick, call. So we would it'd be like working in a traditional building, right? So it'd probably be like, get there at, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning, do muster, do your job, go to lunch, and then everybody probably would take off at 5. But because it is a nuclear power submarine, we always have to have a staff 24 hours guarding it. So on submarines, our rotation was every 3 days. So every 3 days, I'd have to stay on that submarine. I couldn't go to the barracks or anything. I stayed on it. And you just had to guard the submarine and, you know, do your preventive maintenance and your watch standing. Now, if you're underway, that's where we got screwed, because there's no such thing as a weekend on a submarine. You can't say, well, it's Sunday, so we're off for the day, right? So on a submarine, we operated in 18-hour days. So what that looked like is 6 hours, you had to sleep, 6 hours, you did your watch. So a watch could be, for example, when you first start, you're going to have to work in the mess hall, right? They use the young guys to come in to help the, what they call mess specialists, right? So you do that for like 90 days or something like that. But then you have to progress. So the next level is driving the submarine. So it doesn't matter what your MOS is, unless you're a nuke, you're going to have to learn how to drive the submarine and qualify for that position. So that was something I had to do. So when I say I had to stand 6 hours watch, driving the submarine, then I went to the next level, which was the auxiliary electrician forward, which means I was a roving watch. Anything that was forward of the nuclear plant, I took control of all electronics. So all the gauges and meters, every hour I had to check the oxygen level looks good. We don't have any poisonous gas in the air. Good. The water systems are good. And every hour I had to take rounds. So that was the 6 hours of your watch. The next 6 hours is when you do your MOS. This is when I'm making sure the maintenance on everything is good. So how it's kind of like scamish to us is you end up working 12 hours, right? Doing your watch and then doing your job. Then you're down for 6 hours, but you're not really down for 6 hours. When are you going to eat and shower? So when you eat and shower, if it takes you 15 minutes to shower because you had to shower quick, it's 130 guys on a fast attack, then you'd have to get up early. So you didn't sleep 6 hours. You probably slept 4 hours because you got to get up early, beat everybody to the shower. Then you had to go and sit down and eat, right? Then you went to sleep. So sometimes you would skip the meal and go straight to bed because you're dead tired, right? So we never really got to sleep 6 hours. Now, the problem is it's 18-hour days, not 24 hours for us. So what happens if it's 6 a.m. in the morning and I'm getting off a watch and my rest time is 6 to 12? It's daylight out, right? All the officers, they're dealing on 24-hour time frames, right? So now they want to run fire drills and flooding drills starting at 8 a.m. in the morning, which is my sleep time. So I could literally go a day with no sleep because they decided to run drills when it was supposed to be my downtime. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long are you guys out of port for at a time?
So it depends. If you're on mission, you're not going to be pulling into port a lot. Nuclear power submarine, the only limitation is food. We make our own oxygen. We make our own water.
Yeah.
So if you go out on a 6-month deployment and we got a 90-day loadout, then we only have to pull in maybe 3 times, but we don't even have to do that because we have submarine tenders, right? We could have a submarine tender sitting out in the middle of nowhere with food and we can just dock next to it and just get the food. So yeah, if you're out on your 6-month deployment, hopefully you get to pull into a couple ports. But the thing is, you have a nuclear reactor. Most countries don't want a nuclear reactor sitting off their coast.
Yeah.
So for us, we got the luxury sometimes of pulling in. The ballistic missile ones, they're probably never going to pull in. They've got 24 nuclear missiles plus a reactor, and they're not supposed to be known where they're at. So we didn't really pull in a lot, at least the submarine that I was on. We were on station in places that, you're spying on the Chinese. You're not going to pull in, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Every boat's different. Every mission is different for the sub. So I don't know. It just depends. Like me, I was on a submarine. I didn't get to maybe Guam because we got hit and we had to get checked up on. But other than that, I don't ever remember pulling into any country and pulling in. We were on mission.
What was the longest mission you had?
So you're supposed to go out for about 6 months, but we got hit by a cargo ship. So the only sub that I was ever on that went out on mission got hit by a cargo ship. And that thing, it jacked us up. Like literally on that day when we got hit, we got hit by a cargo ship off the coast of Hong Kong in a place we probably shouldn't have been, right? And how we got hit, and this is all declassified, and anybody can look this stuff up. But the USS Drum, we were on station around Hong Kong, and we were underwater. Chinese people, they throw dynamite in the water. That's how they fish. They blow the fish up and they surface, right? So we know what's going on. I'm in command central. I can, I'm around the quartermasters and everybody. But we had a sailor that someone in his family just died. And we had this thing, it's called, I think it's called a PERSVAC, personal evacuation, where we have to pop up out the water and somehow somebody's going to come and get that guy off the sub. But we did that. It was like a PERS trans or something, but it was in the middle of a storm. Waves were bouncing everywhere. They got him off the boat. But as soon as they got him off the boat, a cargo ship snipped us in the back. How in the world a cargo ship's going to hit you? You got radar, right? So, obviously the commanding officer got relieved. But a big old Panamanian cargo ship just freaking ran us over while we had our hatch open. Like literally, if it would have hit us dead on, it would have flipped us. we would have gone upside down, the reactor would have scrammed, and we'd all be dead.
Everybody be screwed.
Yeah. But it hit us at an angle where it just pushed the back of the boat, ripped off a lot of the paneling. The submarine has a special type of coating on it, right? So it's not gray like Navy ships, it's black. And it's a hard type of rubber that it makes it where we're going to be less noisy in the water, right? It's more like stealth.
It's like a dampener.
It is a dampener. So it ripped some stuff off, and the hull of a submarine is only like that. A lot of people don't know that.
Only about an inch or so.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it broke it down to the steel, broke our towed array, which that's the little antenna that goes out the back of the sub to track stuff behind us, mangled that thing. And so we had no choice. We had to just slowly make our way to Guam. And then they checked it out and said, you guys, it's safe enough to bring the boat back to San Diego. And they're like, this boat is old. It was built like, I think, 79 or something. And they said, it's not cost effective to just fix it, right? So let's just send it straight to DECOM. And we tugboat that thing all the way to Pearl Harbor. And then I did 6 months with the DECOM. And they like, we need volunteers to stick around for I'll do it. 6 months in Pearl, So I was there when they scrapped it and all the welders came in and they chopped the boat up. And so I did that for about 6 months. So yeah, that was an experience. Not many people can say they was on a submarine and got hit by a cargo ship.
And survived it. No, I mean, I would think that'd be terrifying. Even just the initial impact going, what the fuck happened? How bad is it?
Yeah, so it was terrifying only because I was just getting off of watch. So I knew the surroundings around us, right? I knew. So when I got off of watch, it was my time to go down in the rack. So I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, just got out the shower, butt freaking naked. Boom, we got hit. And the first thing we heard, flooding in the engine room, flooding in it. Brr, brr. I'm like, oh my God, it's game on.
We're dead.
Right? That's what you train for, right? So when they say flooding in the engine room, based on the watch that you're doing, there is a damage control position or place, a purpose that you're going to fulfill. If it's flooding, if it's a toxic leak, if it's fire, and it's programmed in you, right? So my purpose, if I'm that guy in that particular watch coming off and it's flooding, the sole purpose for me is to go to the forward bulkhead of the nuclear reactor and I dog it, which means I lock it to the point that nobody in the back can run through to the front. And there's a little window that's super thick, right? Because if we ever go down too deep and the submarine implodes, that reactor is going to be protected, right?
Okay.
And that glass is impenetrable, right? It's super thick, right? So every submariner knows this, that if that's your position, to dog that door. So the concept is better to save half the boat than to lose the entire boat, right? So the thinking is, if I got 40 people in the back and I got, 90 in the front, and there's an issue in the back that they can't fix back there and they all die, at least we live because we cut off the damage to the front forward part of the boat. But the thing is, you can see through the window. So my whole thought is, and there was already a chief there with his phones, dog the door. It wasn't me by myself. He knew any second the guy that was off coming, AEF, he was going to be there, and his sole purpose in life was to make sure that door does not open under no circumstance. Dog it. I dogged it. And I just pray, please do not let there be flooding back there. Because if a bunch of men start coming through there.
That window. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine that. Even just as you're telling me, I'm like.
Bro, that is the. So here's what a lot of people don't know. When you go to submarine school, there's a 150-foot tower of water. You got to go in it from the bottom and you got to make your way to the top with a stanky hood is what they call it, right? It's kind of like a flotation device. Your head's in it, but if your body is deep underwater and it starts to go up, your lungs are going to fill up with air. So you got to keep blowing out. If not, your lungs blow up and you die, right? So it's 150 foot is what they test you. Now, once you get to a submarine and you climb down into the submarine, the hatch, there's a metal plate right there where you're going down the ladder. And on that plate, it is a survivability percentage. If you're 50 feet underwater, here's your chance of survival. If you're 100 feet underwater, here's your chance. That last footage is 400 feet. If you are 400 feet underwater, 0% chance. So it's embedded in our head.
Mhm.
So in an event of flooding, if that submarine is already 100, 200 feet under, you're halfway to the 400 mark, right? So even if you try to escape out of a hatch and you're deeper than 400, you're dead.
You're just going to escape tired. Well, you're going to die tired.
No, you're going to die. It's impossible. Unless you're like a diver, you got the scuba tanks, which there's only 2 or 3 on the sub because we have Navy divers, right?
Mhm.
But they're the only ones that got the scuba tank, but there's no way. Even at the 150 feet tower that we trained in, people have issues with the 150 feet. So it's one of those things that you have no choice. You have to fight the fire. You got to stop the flooding because if you don't, everybody dies. There is no second opportunity. So when that happened, I was butt naked. I had to run. That's why the guy beat me to the door. I was butt freaking naked. So I just ran and got whatever, I just throw my poopy suit, which was my overalls on, right? And got my shoes on, boom, dogged the door. And really, so it really wasn't any damage for flooding. What it was is where the propeller goes outside, the shaft goes outside the boat and turns the propeller. It's not an enclosed system. There's always water from the ocean coming in, right? And it also helps with lubrication.
Mhm.
And there's a big air tube that if there was ever a breach, we would blow air in that tube and it would seal the shaft, right? But then the submarine would be dead in the water. So because water comes in from the ocean in the engine room, when it hit us, it was like a tidal wave of water in the bilge that it went on the counter version of me in the back of the submarine, which is a nuclear electric engineer, right? His job is to go around and take readings on the nuclear stuff, right? The mechanics and electrical. So he was the one that said flooding in the engine room because he got doused with a massive amount of water. So, but we didn't know that it wasn't real flooding, right? So everybody that was forward, we didn't know because they said flooding in the engine room and the alarm started going
And
off.
it's his initial reaction.
That's
I
his
mean, if you
initial-
have a crap ton of water jump on you, your
Yeah.
first thought's like, we just got hit. There's water all over me. We're probably leaking.
And I'm trying to remember, I don't know, because this was a long time ago, but we'd had some boats. The Cole
I
got
remember that one.
got a hole in it. And I know there was a submarine, I can't remember, but it was a submarine dragged a trawler down. The periscope got stuck in the net. So back in those days, there were a couple incidents that happened, right? So it's like, if it happens to these guys, why wouldn't it happen to us? So that stuff was kind of like fresh in our mind. But yeah, that's why you train every freaking day.
Oh, yeah.
Damage control. Well, yeah, that happened. It was like,
Now, who's the one calling to dog the door? Was that only the guy next to you that you were talking about, or is it the ones like in the actual nuclear room or engine room?
no. So we divide the sub in half. You got your sailors that went to nuclear power school, but you got your machinist mates. You got your ETs, electronic techs. That's what I was, but I'm with what they call a conventional ET because I didn't go to nuclear power school. That's the only school that they went, that I didn't go to. They went to the nuclear part. So they've got the ETs, they got the MMs, and who else do they have? There's 3 of them: MMs, ETs, and there's another one out there. So my counterpart that was roving watch, right? They have my counterpart that's back there and forward. But also forward, we have what's called the, it's kind of like chief of the watch.
Okay.
He's the one that's sitting down in the chair. The 2 helmsmen are in front of him. The officers tell him, hey, we need to change course or do it. He's the one who relays the command and say, hey, left rudder, X number of degrees, right? So it's a watch station. So that chief of the watch, if he's the off-going watchman and an incident happens, he knows his role to play in case of an emergency. So I would have known who he was because we were standing watch together. So that was the guy that he beat me there because those chiefs a lot of them don't work on 18-hour days, right? So when he gets off a watch, he'll go to the chief lounge, drink his coffee, eat, because they got more free time in the day. That's how he beat me, because I'm like, I got to hurry up and try to get sleep if I can. So I already knew who he was. When he was there, he already had all his battle gear on and had the whatever, the sound power phones, and hey, dog it. And they're relaying information back and forth through sound power phones.
Okay, because I didn't know the one, like if the one who felt the water was the one that kind of made the initial call or whatnot. Because I mean, that's got to be rough to have to sit there and make a call like that, knowing you're in that side of the sub that's about to get locked off.
Yeah, so, and that guy's not by himself. So the counter version of the chief of the watch is they got people in the nuclear reactor room that's also standing watch. So it's a bunch of them. There's always like multiple watch stations going on. So they had their own group of people back there that would assess the damage, and so they would have had a counterpart to every person that's forward of the bulkhead. There's a counterpart back on the backside of the sub.
Almost like a mirror image in a way. Okay.
Yeah, and they divide the boat. So there's an emergency hatch on the back and the front. So if half the boat goes down, at least half of us can escape.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's a lot of the priority in the military is if the greater good, I guess you call it, if you could save the majority versus what's not. So.
Yep. So yeah, that was my first traumatic experience. My second one on the diesel boat, we had a hydrogen sulfide leak in berthing while I was sleeping. That one is the one that got me. Yeah, diesel boats, they're freaking nasty. Because you got the diesel and bacteria when it gets into diesel. You ever heard of, like in Texas, these people are going into these holes in the ground, or maybe oil and gas. They go into a tank and within seconds they black out and then they die. So that's like being on a diesel submarine. We had exposure to that. It was a tank that, it shouldn't have been used for diesel, but we took a trip up to Washington State and we needed more fuel because it wasn't a nuclear submarine. So they used a tank that should not have been used for diesel. And when we brought it back and they tried to clean it out, they didn't really clean it well. And eventually that H2, smells like eggs, right?
Yeah.
That stuff started leaking out in berthing while me and 3 other guys were sleeping. And I was dead sleep. And it was, I think it might have been a day where we had to be on watch. We might have been I think we were maybe out to sea. All I know is I woke up, mouth burning, throat burning, chest burning.
Shit.
This thing was killing me, but I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm going to fight through it. Eventually, I couldn't handle it anymore. So I opened my rack, jumped out, 3 bodies on the ground.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So the little guy slept on the bottom. I slept on the top. And they got out, tried to run, but they immediately passed out. This thing was probably 100 parts per million. Yeah. When the chemical crew came in with the mask and everything, they're like, dude, we have no idea how you didn't pass out. So I jumped over these 3 guys. Like they hit the ground, blood all over. Like literally their heads
smacking the metal.
Yeah. So I jumped over them, ran to control, and then I sounded the alarm and said, hey, there's something toxic leak in the front. And then that's when they send the guys in with the mask and everything, drag the guys out. Still to this day, there's master chiefs that said, listen, pay off the Kammerdiener. We're trying to figure this out. How in the hell did you not pass out? Right, if I would have passed out, we'd all be dead.
I was about to say, because I mean, I even thought about, you said you jumped over them and went to the main. And my initial thought was, did you not drag the guys out? But then it's like, well, if you even tried, you're going to probably pass out yourself. Yeah. And then you guys are all fucked because no one knows.
Because you got to save the boat.
Yes.
Right? You got to sound the alarm so that the rest of the people can live.
And then the proper people can get in there to properly rescue.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane and they say, you got to put your face mask on first before the next person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that I think it's called H2S, man. That's a nasty gas. That thing will just kill you instantly.
A silent killer. It's almost like carbon monoxide in a way. Just kills you and you don't even know it.
Yeah, it burns. Like you can smell it in the beginning, but as it gets stronger, it kills your sense of smell. They actually had it on Landman. I don't know if you watched Landman.
I've seen it before, but not in a while.
Yeah. So they had some guys that were exposed to that, and it got them. I didn't know what the hell it was, but after they went in there and they're like, yeah, so they put in my service record and everything. I never even thought about that, until I got COVID. I got COVID and I went down hard. And they would always say, well, if you get affected by COVID, you got to have a pre-existing condition. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it, right? So that's when I went and got my service record looked at. And I submitted that file to the VA. They're like, dude, we got your medical record and you got a lot of stuff in here. And I'm like, well, I went to the VA once when I got out of the military. But, when Iraq and Afghanistan was happening, people were coming back with like no arms and stuff. I went down to Houston. I walked in, bro. I walked right back out. I said, I'll never set foot in another VA again.
I've been to the Houston VA only about 3 or 4 times. And going to like the Conroe, the little annex one, is different. But you go to Houston, it's heartbreaking. It fucking is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You see these guys out there with missing limbs, really jacked up, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back home.
Yep.
Let them
have
the service.
That's exactly what I did. I said I'll never come back, and I stayed out of it for over 20 years. But Dad, when COVID happened, I said, it's got to be something. And I wasn't overweight or anything. I do P90X 6 times a week, but you never know if it's something inside, because what happens is it's like a person who smokes cigarettes, right? You start to get the issues with your breathing and your coughing. But you're like, a lot of people have it. It's just, I can live with it, right? So that thing jacked my respiratory up big time. Yeah.
I once used a bunch of bleach to clean. And for whatever reason, after so long of using the military, I can't be around bleach. It burns my chest, burns my throat, and everything about it, even just the faintest smell. Like my girlfriend can clean the bathroom with bleach. I can walk in the house on the opposite side of the house and I'm already affected by it. And it's almost like that. It's just like, it's going to hurt.
Oh man, I got a great topic, bro.
Okay, what?
I got a great topic. So, there's a museum in Hill Country.
Okay.
That is based off the Pacific Rim. Right, so all the wars we fought in the Pacific, there's like I can't even remember this, called the Pacific West something Museum or something, right? You can go in there and see a map of Pearl Harbor, what it looked like before it got bombed, right?
Oh.
So when people always say conspiracy theorists, and I don't trust in the government for several reasons, and I got proof. Number one, I was stationed in Pearl Harbor. So standing on a submarine, which I did when we were in port, I can see Ford Island. Ford Island, if you ever watch anything on Pearl Harbor, it's where we had our airplanes.
Yeah.
Right? They bombed the airfield. You could see it in the movie Pearl Harbor,
because
right?
Wasn't that the initial radio station that was supposed to be sighting everything?
Yeah, that was like our airfield.
And they thought it was like a birds and shit.
Yeah, so I lived on Ford Island because they put barracks there, right? So when our submarine was being decommissioned for 6 months, I lived on Ford Island, and to get to the sub base, you take a little boat, right? So it's like a triangle. You got sub base, the surface base, and Ford Island.
Okay.
So I could literally swim from sub base to Ford Island and back to the surface side. So my question is, because the sub base is so close to the surface base and Ford Island, why wasn't there a single submarine hit during Pearl Harbor?
Well, didn't Pearl Harbor not have any submarines around that?
No,
day?
we've always had. That's our fast attack.
I
base.
thought they were outside of the inlet. I thought they were just on the outside. There was something about subs that day.
Shipmate, anytime you have a sub base, you'll have half your submarines deployed. Where's the other half at? In port.
He says the other half of the port.
Port. Why wasn't there a single submarine hit? Because they were told the day prior to leave. We never put all of our submarines out.
Yeah.
Never. So we knew that the attack was coming. They protected the submarines.
And if they did all that just to protect the submarines and leave all the ships and those people to die, man, that's fucked.
Yeah, but what did we get out of it? We got to detonate the A-bomb.
We got to go to war. And
how do we know if this new weapon works unless we try it?
And the politicians made a lot of money.
Yeah, man. So that was, and here's the thing. If you go to Pearl, to the Arizona Memorial, which is the ship sunk under the ground,
Yeah.
you could see the little, I guess the building that's on top of her, the white thing, right? When you go from subbase over to Fort Island and you take the little boat, you got to go right past it.
Yeah.
So if that ship right there is sunk, bro, that's even closer to subbase than Fort Island. So you can't tell me these guys are dropping torpedoes in the water, dropping bombs down, and no bombs hit a submarine? They were gone, bro. Anthrax. Remember when anthrax came out?
Oh, yeah.
So where did they say the anthrax came from?
Wasn't it the same as COVID almost, like a lab or some shit?
An army lab, Fort Detrick's, bro. It's an army base. My dad was stationed there. So they had this whole nation on alert because, terrorists got anthrax. And blah. Where'd it come from? The freaking army had it, bro. So I think they do these things to test us, and the test, it's like, dude, it's freaking.
Well, look at the global war on terrorism. How many WMDs did we find?
Exactly.
But we got Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden out.
Yeah. Yeah, when my dad was in Honduras, the gimmick is if you can't get Congress to declare war, you can call it a conflict, but it's got to be less than 90 days.
Yeah, isn't that what's going on with
Exactly.
Hormuz right now?
So my dad, they would sneak him down there to Honduras because they were training the Hondurans to fight against the Nicaraguans, the Sandinistas, right? So my dad would deploy from Virginia, go down there with the combat engineers and intelligence battery, teaching the Hondurans how to fight and kill. Provided that we weren't able to get in the battle, but we were showing them how to do the battle. Yeah.
Just like all the
And that's where, and then the movement of the money and the weapons, that was the Oliver North deal. So yeah, my dad, he was part of that scam that they were running down there.
I think a good movie that represents that is Lord of War. You ever seen that one?
Yeah.
That almost nails it right on the head. Dude's about to go to jail. It's like, no, someone's going to walk through that door and release me because y'all need me.
Yeah, honestly, I think when we hire Northrop Grumman and Boeing and all these contractors, we're paying billions of dollars for your stuff. How do we know it works? We got to make up a conflict, right? Let's see if we're going to get our money.
Test it in the real world, man. Oh my gosh. As Mike says, it's all a conspiracy until proven true.
Yeah, and that Snowden deal. Oh, the government's spying, and dude, we were on a submarine, and with the we got the VLF, very low frequency, and then we got the high frequency. We could be on a submarine, on a periscope in dock, looking like a mile down the road, a guy smoking a cigarette and on his cell phone, and we could hear everything he's saying from a submarine. That was 30 plus years ago. You don't have to wiretap somebody's phone, man. We were pulling communications right out of the air.
Well, it's what I always found funny, though, is like, you know, if we have a missing kid in America and stuff, we can find them pretty damn quickly. We have all the surveillance in the world to, you know, tell someone's eye colors from halfway across the state. Why the fuck did it take us so long to get to Osama bin Laden? I mean, he's hiding in a fucking cave. We should have been able to.
Yeah, that's another one, you know, doing deals with drug dealers so that they can fight your enemy for you. But then the drug dealers, they get emboldened like, hey, we can rat your dirty secrets out, you know. Same thing with Noriega and, you know, all these guys.
No wonder why people don't trust the government.
Yeah, well, the problem is the civilians do.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, because they're closed-minded and haven't been exposed to that. I think once you're truly exposed to, I mean, the military works as a well-oiled machine when it wants to, but you're going to get fucked somehow being in that machine. And until you have to go through all that and see it firsthand, then you're just going to walk through life with the rosy-colored eyes that the government's here to protect us. The police are here to serve and protect you. No, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, some crazy stuff out there. Yeah, me personally, I don't really believe in the politicians. Honestly, I've never voted in my life. After serving in the military and just seeing how these people operate and how they think, and who's pulling the strings. This is another reason why I just stay away from corporate America and just try to stay off the grid as much as you can.
Oh, yeah. And I tell people I've never voted in my life either. And like, what the hell's wrong with you? I was like, I have a right to vote or not to vote. And I don't want to be a part of being the person that's voting for the idiot or one of the two idiots trying to run this country into the ground.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever. If you're a politician, I know a couple of things. You're making a lot of money off my ass. Your kid's not going to be sent to a deployment or to war or even be signed up for the military unless he feels like he's got to prove something to daddy. And we're going to get lied to as the American people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a politician who will be willing to send his kid to war before he sends any other soldier. I might have a little respect, but until then, no. Fuck politicians.
Yeah. Yeah. It did it for me also. It was Biden's kid. Got kicked out as an officer. Freaking positive for coke.
And he still is.
And he's flying around on Air Force One, right? Like, what the hell? Like, in recruiting duty, if you tell me as a kid you smoked marijuana once, you can never have a secret security clearance. If you just say you smoke, it don't even have to be an eyewitness. You just say you did it and check mark that you did it once.
Or even hint.
You're going to be a freaking cook, right? So to see a president with a picture, a photo with a doobie in his mouth, right? A senator with a doobie in his mouth and becomes the president, and you're getting access to all the secret security, like you wouldn't even be able to go into the military and have that type of access. That's what opened my eyes. Like, wait a minute. I had to look kids in the eyes and say, you have to be a cook, right? You can't be a hospital corpsman because you said from your own mouth you smoked marijuana one time. So if you love your country, I get it, but you're not going to be able to be a hospital corpsman. And yet I see a president who's bragging he smoked a doobie.
But he didn't inhale. Or
no,
Clinton. Okay.
I'm talking about Obama.
I'm about to say Clinton.
He got a photo with the doobie, right? So I'm like, nah, that's too hypocritical for me. These people should not be an authority over our military when they did things that would disqualify them from the military. It just doesn't even make logical sense.
Well, look at Clinton. I mean, he smoked pot and didn't inhale, apparently, got head in the Oval Office, and then screwed up Mogadishu.
Yeah.
So,
and the lady says, I smoked, but I actually inhaled. What the hell? You're running for like no. That's where I draw the line. It's just, it doesn't work.
But yet they're going to give us crap if we do it as a means of therapy and pain management rather than all the Percocet, oxycodone, and ibuprofen Motrin that they send at you.
Yeah.
So
COVID shot. Hey, if you don't take it, we're going to kick you out.
But now they're actually bringing them back in and
with full
back paying them.
But that's what doesn't make sense. See, in the military, it's either or, right? There's right and there's wrong. There's no gray area, right? And even in a gray area, you could get busted, right? That's when you go to court martial and say, hey, battle, blah, blah, blah. We got lawyers and attorneys. So it doesn't make sense that if we have a government that's in authority, one group of them is going to say that we're going to kick you out of a voluntary service, which they needed people because you won't take a shot. But then you have a whole nother group that comes in and says they should have never been forced to do it, right? That is like, who's right, who's wrong? Mm-hmm. You can't have that in the military. You can't have doubt of your leadership, right? Because as soon as you lose the confidence of your soldiers,
you lost it all.
You're done. So I have someone that works for me. He's one of my agents. He was in the Air Force, and literally he was weeks from getting kicked out because he just didn't want to take the shot. He wasn't even deployed, right? He was a reservist, and he says, I'm not going to do it. And he was weeks, out, and he was doing the exemption, religious exemption. And then finally, he just was at the proper time where they stopped kicking the people out. But now they love him. Hey, we wanted to promote you to E7, E8, and put you in a good command. To me, that's not logical. The way that there's the double-mindedness, right?
Double standard type thing.
You can't trust people like that. So then you have to question, well, what is their motives behind it, right?
If this is just a small thing that we're noticing and able to call you out on, what's the bigger scheme that you guys are running?
Yeah. So I don't know. I deal with a lot of vets. I deal with a lot that are getting out from the military. You know, they're purchasing homes through our real estate company. And I always ask them, like, you're at 12 years. Why in the world would you get out, right? And when they say it's just the military, it's the culture of it. The culture is you're a freaking soldier. Right? Like, what other culture can you have? Yeah. You're trained to defend and protect and kill if you have to. But that's why I don't trust these people.
I don't know. When I was transitioning out, it was when I joined, we didn't have the whole cell phone thing during basic training.
That is
we
true.
didn't have the whole stress card bullshit. When I was getting out and my wife at the time joined, cell phone every freaking weekend. I'm like, how the hell are you calling me? But the whole dynamic of the military changed like 2010, 2012-ish. And ever since that changed, it's not worth it. You got E1s coming in, cussing out E5s, thinking they're hot shit and everything. And they're all up in their face. And like, well, you can't touch me. So the whole realm of the military changed way too much for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I joined.
Yeah, I think it's going to go back, though.
Eventually, hopefully.
It's going to go back.
So let's see. You said you have about 7 veterans under your employment?
I think we got more than that. Got a bunch of squids, got a few Marines, Air Force, got a lot of Army. A lot of people that, you know, served the country, went out, did like I did, got their jobs or whatever. It just wasn't a fit for them, you know. And the thing is they know their credentials, and they just don't want to be pigeonholed at certain income levels, and they want to be part of something that kind of like emulates military, you know, structure. If anything, the camaraderie.
The camaraderie, right? And the structure in a way, yes.
Yeah, we don't have like ranking structures, and we're not forced to do PT tests and things like that. But we're trying to, you know, keep some of those things that we liked about the military together. We just hired a guy on our mortgage team. He's 11 Bravo.
Okay.
He was airborne, so actually graduated the Woodlands High School, I think 2015. He did about 4 years in, so we just picked him up recently. But yeah, when you get around other vets, you know, in the office, and it's just, man, like we don't have to say, hey, let's talk for the next 5 months to figure out who you are, right? It's like, dude, you served, I served, you had to go to basic, I had to go to basic, you had to go to AIT, I had to go to, it's like we have a common ground, right? We know where each of us, you know, went through. We understand that, you know, you had to go through a ranking system where you had to fight to get promoted to the next level. And you knew that in the military, you were always being watched, right? Because that's how your evals were ranked, right? Hey, I noticed your uniform looks like crap, right? The main thing is you could be honest and talk with people in the military, right? So that's what I enjoy is I get guys coming in and I'm like, I can talk the way that I used to talk in the military, but, you know, even when you're young, we did say stupid stuff we probably shouldn't have said, right?
Yeah.
But just that liberty of they won't get offended because, you know.
You're not going to say the wrong thing accidentally or even in a joking manner and then be in HR the next day or the next afternoon.
Yep.
I think if you put 2 veterans, it can be even the different branches. You can put a Marine with Army or whatnot in the same room to do a test. They're going to do it 10 times better than any just plain Jane civilian could. And they'll do it while busting each other's balls and become best friends. They could be, like I said, whole separate branches, whole separate jobs, and they'll walk out of that room best friends, basically, without probably even saying more than 5 words to each other.
Yep. Yep.
Veterans are a whole new breed.
Yeah.
My mind went blank finally. I was thinking of something and it finally went blank. It didn't happen the last couple of times.
That could be a good thing. If it's blank, then you don't have the stress of the world on your shoulder.
I always have stress, but...
Because you know too much. Yeah.
Sometimes. I think I just try to take on way too much and get it done because I'm still in that mind frame that if I know how to do it, I can get it done. It needs to get done. And I don't really like passing the responsibility off to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because it's out of my hands at that point. So, favorite submarine movie? I wanted to ask you that one. I never did. Do you have one?
You know, I've looked at them all. What did he say?
He said Down Periscope. Jesus Christ. Because you got Down Periscope, Hunt for Red October, or U571, I think it is. That's one of my favorites. That's a good one. Because when you were talking about Dog in the Door, that's the movie I was thinking about. Because I think they have a scene where they have to do that, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so even though I was on submarines, I grew up in the Army because my dad was a soldier, right? 79, probably all the way to like 86-ish.
Okay.
And then he got recalled, like I think in 91 or 92. And I've lived on military bases. But honestly, I watch more Army movies than I do Navy.
So which one? What's your favorite Army one?
Well, I grew up watching them. I watched them all. Like, remember MASH?
Yes,
like
I love it.
My dad was obsessed with that. Hamburger Hill, like freaking all of them. And I go back and I'll watch documentaries based on all the wars. What was the HBO ones? There was one that was about the Pacific.
There's Band of Soldiers, Band of Brothers.
I got that one.
And then the Pacific.
Okay, so one was about what was the Marine Expeditionary Force, right?
Yes.
So that one was a series on HBO. And then the one that was Army version was the Airborne Rangers.
Okay.
So those are the type of things that I actually watch because, number one, you know, my dad, I don't have a lot of memories of my dad when I was young because he was always deployed, right? But what I do have is he was an alcoholic. He was a rage against himself, like very just high-strung. But when he was in the house, he was like not there, right? Like he would be on his couch watching Army stuff and just, you know, he wasn't really involved, right? Like my dad never taught me how to ride a bike or play baseball or basketball, none of that stuff, right? So me and my dad, we weren't like really close, but as he got older and I understood what PTSD was, I try to go back and, you know, I watch movies and say, hey, you know, these are some of the things that my dad could have gone through. So it's kind of like, don't be so hard on him because I see that this thing is a real thing, right? And in his older age, you know, he actually came to live with me for a while. But he was really jacked up and I know what it is now that really got him. It's when he had to go down to Honduras and he was part of an intelligence battery. And like I said, you know, if Congress won't approve a war, then you can get away with a conflict, but it's got to be less than 90 days. You can deploy troops, right? And he used to get deployed. And again, I'm living a normal life, Vin Hill Farm Station. We lived at Fort Belvoir. So I'm living a normal life.
And he's in the shit.
But he's in the jungle, right? So when you take a soldier who's in the thick of it and they're teaching how to kill and showing even, you know, kids how to pick up arms and fight against, you know, the adversary, it jacked my dad up because he saw kids being murdered, right? Killed, right? And even he would say that he would always say some of the things that I did when I served, God would never forgive me, right? So being able to understand how that affected him, thus saying, this is why I had a bad relationship. Remember I said I joined the military to get away from my family, to get away from my dad. My dad was a mean dude, bro. Like I'll give you an example, one mean thing he did. So after he was finishing up his tour at Fort Sill, his time was up about 2 months prior to me graduating my senior year. So my dad, being an a-hole, says, hey, my time is up. We're packing the house and we're going back to West Virginia. I'd been at Fort Sill, Lawton, Oklahoma for 2 years. I had my friends, had my buddies. I'd been removed from West Virginia for 2 years. I don't even know these kids anymore at those high school. But I'm like, Dad, I'm about to graduate in 60 days. I don't give an F. Pack your crap. Let's go. My mom had to stand up and said, no, you're not going to do this. Like, this is you don't even want him to graduate and walk with his class. Mom says, you know what? You go ahead, get your, you know, truck drive. My dad was so jacked up that he lived on the road as an over the the highway truck driver. Like he drove for J.B. Hunt. He taught for J.B. Hunt. He was like one of those guys like Rambo who isolated himself, and he intentionally stayed away from the family.
Yeah.
Because he just had demons, right? So I had no love for my dad, right? No love. One day I remember he would come home from the field in Fort Sill late at night and, go lay in his bed, and we had a bunch of guns, bro. All the guys that had guns on base, you couldn't keep your guns on base. They kept them at my dad's house, right? And I remember one time I said, my dad is such a bad guy. He's an evil guy. One day when he sleeps, I will just blow his brains out right there while he's sleeping, bro. And if I got to spend the rest of my life in prison, because he was a beast, right? So the Navy was a way for me to get away from my dad, right? He didn't think I would do it. And even when they gave me orders, they said, you could choose any place in the Navy that you want to go, because I graduated #1 student out of 32 in my A school. And if you're #1, they draw on the board. Here's all the billets you can have globally. You pick. And I said, #1, I'll never go back to the East Coast because that's where my dad's at. So I want to stay on the West Coast. So I never went back home to West Virginia. I go to visit, but I never moved back.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange, right? You leave from a place, you get out of the military, and you don't go back to your hometown. I never went back. So long story short, I like to watch a lot more of the Army because the psychology of what did my dad really go through, so that I can forgive him.
Kind of helps you relate and understand something.
Yeah, he was jacked up, bro. Literally, he died. I got all his medical records, bro. So when I read it, and they're like schizophrenic and severe PTSD and sees, dead people walking around, I'm like, wow, my dad was jacked up. And because of what he did in the Army, they would always say, you can't speak about what you did. We're always watching. He was freaking paranoid. Like, for example, in Germany, you said you were in Germany, right?
Yes.
So I don't know the time frame, but in the 70s and 80s, the terrorist bombings, right? We would go to the movie theaters on base, and Dad said, set up against a wall. Because if someone comes in and detonates a bomb here in this movie theater, you guys need to be up against the wall, right? So that's the type of paranoia he had because he saw too much stuff. See, so yeah, that was kind of like my childhood, man. It was horrible, bro. But when I went into the Navy, it's kind of like the Navy was my family, right? The Master Chiefs were like my fathers in the military. And I imitated these guys, hey, when I grew up. And it's funny because the Chiefs and the Master Chief, they were like in their 30s, bro. To me, they were the old people, right? So yeah, that kind of, I watch a lot of more of the Army stuff, the Marine Corps stuff. The Navy stuff, it's kind of cool, but it's not as exciting, man. It's being out in the field,
I actually hear a lot from people that they join the military to get away from family. Sometimes even the father, I joined to get away from my family, but I also joined because there was nothing to do where I graduated. So it was like, let's join, let's get out of here, let's go do something. So I wasn't going to go to college or anything. Didn't really want to work down there because it was like pizza places and a Walmart, like this little small town. So it seemed like the Army was the better way to go and just get the hell out of there.
Yep. Yeah, so my dad did it, man. My dad was, he dropped out of school at 13, was emancipated at 13, had me at 17. Yeah, ended up going to the Army. He got into a fight with a guy, almost killed him. So the judge is like, listen, go to prison or you good, go.
Yeah.
So he went the route. So he got his GED in the Army. But he brought some attitude when he went in. You mentioned they can't put their hands on it. Listen, my dad was fighting all the time in the Army.
Well, back then, I think that was like, Full Metal Jacket time frame. So it's kind of standard to be able to put your hands on them at that time. But nowadays, it's a little frowned on. No, when I was in Iraq, my parents used to watch MASH all the time when it came on TV. Now, I remember that stupid intro song. When I got to Iraq, they had the little DVD box sets at the PX or whatever. We had a little shop, and that was about the most of our entertainment is whatever movies you brought. I went through, I think there's like 12 seasons, bought every single season and just watched them all. And that was one of my favorite military series from that time. But Band of Brothers, U-571, Black Hawk Down, those type of movies, Lone Survivor. So,
yeah. Whiskey 35 finished that a couple months ago. I guess that will be the new generation of Army people. Seems like now when you watch the newer stuff, man, they're always in the military scamming how to make money, and so I think it's all for show, honestly.
A lot of it is. I mean, because I think Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan
That's
are
another good one.
Yeah, those are like the only two that are like highly accurate. Granted, Band of Brothers did screw up once and say that one of the people died when he never did. So can you imagine watching that show, be like, I'm not dead. That's me, but I'm not dead. Come on, guys.
Hacksaw Ridge was another good one,
Oh
too.
God, yeah. That it had that new kid, that young one. Oh, what the hell was his name? Either way, that was a good one. We already said Black Hawk Down.
Yeah. I was just watching. There's a series, Navy SEALs, that's on right now, and it talks about how the SEAL team actually started as the Frogmen and how they progress, and when the enemy started changing, how it started, changing the training of the SEALs. And yeah, that stuff that always interested me growing up, because I grew up in West Virginia. We were living on 1.5 acres in the middle of like thousands of acres of woods, so that's all we did was stay outside and shoot guns and hang out in the woods. But yeah, my dad, he was the real deal when he went in. But yeah, once he got diabetes, bro, that was a downturn. Yeah. A lot of people, it's kind of a love-hate, right? It's like you love the structure of the military, you love the organization, the camaraderie. It's your buddies that you love. It's the politics that you hate, right? So it's like, I'm going to get out because, this thing is rigged. But once you get out, you never find the camaraderie. But then you find out corporate America is just like the politicking, right? So then it comes down to like, there's no one I can have trust in. Like my dad, I can't tell you if he had any best friends once he got out. He would say, well, my friend was the guy I served with 15 years ago, right? And then I find myself in the same situation, bro, like zero best friends. And it's always like, well, I know this guy, he's now living over there and we served. So it's kind of like you always go back and say, hey, my friends are those guys that were like 30 years ago.
I don't have many civilian friends. I mean, I have two, but I knew them from high school. It's not like I've gotten out and made civilian friends. Most of my friends are 1 or 2 veterans. Oh. So I think it's just because when you get out, civilians don't understand shit. And then you're just like, I just want someone that can understand. Yeah. You don't have to understand fully. You don't have to do everything I did. Just fucking understand. And civilians are just so wrapped up in their own shit, they can't take 5 seconds to go, okay, now I see why you're agitated today or something.
Yeah, a lot of things that they think about, it's useless, Once you've been exposed to the evils of the world, right? And the first thing you do is when you have to put on that gas mask at boot camp, right? You're like, wait a minute, you're telling me there's humans out there that would make chemicals that could do this to the human body? This isn't like make believe. Yeah, there's very dangerous people in this world, and once you understand, because most of the time you go into the military, you're a kid, and as soon as you get immersed in boot camp, that's when they burst your bubble and say, hey, that little small town where everybody knows everybody, and the world is big, and the people aren't like that, right? So what happens is you stop trusting in people as being good people to immediately it's you're a foe and to identify you as being friendly, right? And I don't think a lot of civilians understand that thought process. So for me, when I'm speaking to someone and I meet them, my mind is, are they friend or foe? They're speaking to me. What's their angle? What are they trying to get out of it? I already know that they would never have my back, right? But it's just understanding that there's a lot more going on this earth, and I'm obsessed with watching conflicts on the other side of the world. I know that the younger generation is out there having to deal with these people, right? So some people are sleeping, having fun, their Christmases and their holidays. But for me, it's like, I know that there's probably 1.3 million people active duty right now. Probably most of them are deployed right now, and they're living in freaking hell right now. And nobody over here cares. And even when they finish their tour overseas and come back to America, which is way safer than any other country in the planet Earth, you don't have to really watch your back, right? If you're living in an area like this. And just like, can you turn that switch off? Like you went from being on guard and high alert to now you're back home. Like, how do you really turn that thing off? So for me, I still think about these guys, that are out there.
I mean, you're always going to have to do a threat assessment on anyone you meet. And, it's just regardless of what happens. I mean, I didn't realize how truly evil the world was until I was told that the people that are trying to kill us are willing to shove explosives up a goat's ass, leave it dead on the side of the road for us to drive next by. Because they know we have roadkill. They know we don't care about it. You see a dog or goat, you're just going to keep driving, and no, there's a wire hanging out of its ass to blow us up.
That's intentional evil, brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, they would even put, they would make it to where we would have to stop for the animal, get out of the vehicle to clear the issue, but then they would set up another bomb somewhere else, an actual active one, to get more people just by decoying them with the original inert bomb. Fucking evil. Oh no, I was looking at this one documentary about Vietnam and some of the traps they set up, like the holes with the sticks sticking out. It's like, oh, that's kind of evil. But then he kept going down to these worse and worse ones. Like, you have one where you drop your leg drops in, and it's like a fish trap. But how the fish can go in and not come out, but they have nails down there. So your foot drops in and you already got nails in your leg and you can't pull it out or you're just going to rip your leg off. They had one where if you fall in the hole, you hit like a pendulum and it's almost like a seesaw. So you hit it and the spikes come around and bust you in the back of the head or something. I mean, it's so many of these little inventions are just diabolical, and I couldn't even imagine stepping on one or hitting one.
Yeah, yes. These people, and again, people can argue against America. Hey, you guys did some dirty stuff and did things. I get it. But to have these people, it's always the evil is they're suppressing someone, right? Whether it's religious belief or economics. So there's evil that's already in these people, right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand sometimes when civilians, like, for example, there's people in Africa, Christians getting killed by radical Islam, right? Hey, that's not our problem, right? It's on the other side of the world. But yet, oh, well, in Gaza, they're doing this over there. Israel's doing this, and we should be doing something. It's either we're going to fight against tyranny on a global scale, or we're not going to fight. So, maybe it's my wishful thinking, but if you just wipe out all the evil people, but, I think that's like, for me, now I'm not in the military, but if I was in the military and I was controlling the military, I'd be doing the same thing Trump's doing right now. Mm-hmm. If I had that ultimate authority and I had the greatest military and I had 4 years, I would try to wipe out as much evil as I can. And it won't stop it, but it would suppress it for a while, right?
It'll put a good dent in.
Yeah, it didn't probably make people think, right? We just have to make sure our military was always superior to everybody else's, right? Yeah, that's some of the things that kind of keep me up at night, because you're around civilians and they're clueless. They have no idea. They've never had the pressure put on them, or, we've seen videos of what chemical weapons can do to a human body. Mm-hmm. They show you that, so then you got to put on that mask when they tell you to put on that mask.
There's a sense of urgency after you watch those videos.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's, a lot of veterans, they've seen too much, they know too much, and to be around civilians who are naive, then I think that's what makes us kind of stay to ourselves.
Well, the other part is, like me and you, we grew up, and I've said this before, we grew up in a military house. We kind of had a good idea of what the hell we were getting into. But, even at that, you can't just flip off a switch. You can't forget the things you've seen, the things you were taught. Because, even through basic AIT, anytime you do a road march and you're doing cadences, what are those cadences? Death, blood, kill. You're trying to, blood makes the green grass grow. There's a bunch of C-130 airborne ranger cadences, all about killing. And so we're almost brainwashed into a more of a warrior mentality. But the problem is once your military service is over, You don't get to go through a boot camp to teach you how to be a civilian. They just push you out that door and go, hope for the best, buddy.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of the problem is because, we don't have that switch to turn it off, and civilians are naive and don't understand it because they haven't lived it. So if you haven't lived it, you can't understand it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those, it's a catch-22, and there should be more help for veterans getting out, especially in the therapy world and the mental health world. Teach them how to be a civilian. Quit teaching them how to be a warrior, but you had to now teach them to be a civilian if you're not going to train them as a warrior anymore.
Yeah. Well, if I was in charge, I would have all this department of the government, for example, like TSA. It pisses me off to go to an airport. They're all fat, right? Like, if a terrorist came up, are you really going to be able to take them out? They're all hanging around, lollygagging. I'm like, dude, why is it 6 of you guys, like, in a 10-foot radius? Like, what is your purpose? Like, that should be veterans taking those jobs,
Yeah.
right? So if you're coming out of the military and you're freaking grunt or, mastered arms, like, I believe that should be the transition. Keep them in a job where they're going to be surrounded by people that are just like them. So it's like veterans, they just got to really fend for themselves and just pray for the best when they get out, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like when the school shootings were happening. People were always like, put a veteran in there, put a veteran in there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but y'all still won't.
Yeah.
I think if I had the chance, I would fire every friggin' civilian doctor that works for the VA or is associated with the VA.
That's another issue.
Put someone in there that I can talk to about my issues that will understand it. I'm so sick of civilian doctors trying to treat veterans.
You must have went to a CMP exam.
Actually, my CMP exam went really well. But my history is a little bit more unique because when I went in there, they're like, tell us what's wrong. Now, I got shoulder issues, back issues, neck issues, and it wasn't even covered on that. When I went in, I was like, okay, this is what I saw. This is what I did. This is what I've been through. Oh, okay, well, that's not that bad. Oh, yeah, my wife also fucking died in Afghanistan, and I'm dealing with that. And basically, by the time my first and only CMP exam ever happened, I walked out and they were like, 100%. But they want to be like non-combat, like bullshit. You can say part of it's non-combat, but a good portion of that's combat PTSD. And if you're going to label me with PTSD, label it right.
Yeah, they don't understand. And then you try to explain yourself to them. Well, let me explain. This is what happens on a submarine. And they're like, no, we got to move on. We got 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes. Check.
Sir, we have the form right here. We know what to check off. We don't need your history. You need my history.
We got access. So here's what's going to screw them. See, with ChatGPT, AI, bro, just put all your medical records through it. It's identifying something like 5 things. Oh, well, the VA missed this, and their own CMP guy said this, and this, and this, and this. I'll just put the supplementals, and now it's saying, according to the law, because this was said and this was done, the VA missed this. But they'll tell you, they looked at all your, how the hell are you going to look at all my records?
Bullshit. Well, I mean, if they really looked at all the records, the government would be making so many mistakes with a lot of our stuff. The government screwed up my paperwork so damn bad. But now they're paying me for it, so.
Yeah. My dad, when he passed away, he was 30% disabled. How is that possible with someone that has thousands of records saying he has PTSD? What they did for him is the VA says he never served his first enlistment.
How do you not serve a first enlistment?
I guess the job he did, they blotted it out. It's like he never. The problem is there's evidence of a shot record. When you go to boot camp, right? They give you that little shot record booklet. So, but the thing is, if you're uneducated and you don't know how to use logic, right? Because they'll say that, hey, there's no evidence of your first 4-year enlistment in the middle. And every time when you re-up, right, you get a DD-214 for that first time that you serve. Then they're going to give you another service, and then you get a second DD-214, which covers both tours, right? Let's say you did 8 years. So I don't know how they did it, but they're like, hey, you were never there. You were never part of that attachment. We don't have any record that you serve. And then stuff was redacted out of it. for those vets, man, it's a lot of them, bro, that they're being screwed over. But my dad, he just never wanted to fight it, man. It's just, I'm not disabled. I'm still, until he got that diabetes, bro.
Well, and I think a lot of it is our own naivety, because when I got out, I was listed at 20-30%. I didn't know you could upgrade. I didn't know you could raise your percentage. It wasn't until I went to a military therapist, a veteran, and he's like, dude, you deserve to be at 100. This is bullshit. I was like, you can raise that? Holy crap. Now, going real quick back to ChatGPT, though, you are correct. Put stuff in there and let it do the work for you, but ensure you double check that work. ChatGPT and any AI, they can get it wrong, but utilizing those type of programs, oh my God, you could find so much more that the military is not going to tell you how to get money from them. They're not. They're going to tighten their grip and not want you to have that money. So if you can use whatever means and measures to figure out what you should be rated at, figure out what they missed, I mean, go for it. But just make sure your shit is correct.
Well, you could feed every time you went to the doctors, the hospitals, you put in, when you go to the CMP exam, the VA is going to tell you this is why you don't get this, but then we acknowledge you had this. You just run that data through, man, and it will catch stuff, man. It caught stuff that I didn't even catch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a couple supplementals and some claims in there I didn't even know was possible. But it said, hey, by the way, when you did your separation physical, here's some things that were annotated. But then also when you went to this doctor, they annotated something similar. And then when you had COVID, they annotated something similar.
And now you got proof of connection.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that, and I think that's where a lot of veterans do screw up. Like you said, a lot of it is pride. I'm not disabled. I'm not hurt. Oh, wait till you hit 40, 45. Your body's going to tell you fucking hurt, and that 100% is going to make a difference. Because, I mean, I can't go to Walmart and lift stuff right now. I couldn't be a stalker. My neck is so jacked that even lifting a window hurts. So
I had someone tell me that came to my office because, people used to say, go to the VA and just, try it. I'm like, no, I'm okay. So this is what they told me. They said, you're comparing yourself, right, to other veterans. The VA compares you to civilians. So you got to stop comparing yourself against the guys that are missing the legs, right? So it's, if you were a civilian, would you be having these issues? Versus you went into the military and you have it. That's what they're looking for. Would you have had these issues if you would have never gone in? And I said, well, damn, I never thought of it like that, right? I've been comparing myself to the wrong people. I got to compare myself to civilians who've never served. And then if you have issues, we always say, well, it's a lot of people have it. I can live with it, right? And you're right, until you get a little bit older. And then you get COVID, and then you're sucking air for 2 days in a hospital, and they're about to do a blood transfusion. You're like, what the hell just happened, right? So you are right, man. When you get out young, you just don't even think about it. Like, I shut all my records, like 25 years, I didn't even look at the stuff.
And were you also one of those ones that when you got out, you kind of didn't want nothing to do with the military for a while, and then slowly...
I went right into the reserves, bro.
Okay,
I loved being in the military. I love wearing the uniform. I love the structure. I love everything about it. I was going to go back in and be a lifer for 30 years until they rejected me. And I did the reserves for like 4 years. So to me, I tell myself I'm still in the military. The way I still got the same. What's the code for the Navy? See if you know. What do you call it? The code of ethics. Code of ethics. Honor, courage, commitment. Same as the Marine Corps, right? I still live my life by that.
I mean, even just living by the normal values. Because I know the Army has a bunch of them as well. Like, we have like 7 core values, integrity and stuff. And it's like, that should be kind of an everyday thing, but it's not instilled in people. It's only instilled in the military.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many civilians have no integrity whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't understand what it is.
All right, so in order to get you out of here on time, we got about 10 more minutes. Any last thoughts, any last comments, anything you want to say or let someone know?
So I think I experienced a lot of veterans through my real estate agency, and I helped them to buy homes, right? The disconnect is when they get out of the military, and even when they're in the military, they have no clue what they have in the form of benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually teach VA home loans, right? So if anyone out there is looking to buy a home, it is a no money down loan. If you go to a bank and they're like, this is a better loan, go conventional, do this, do that. The reason that they're saying that is it's less oversight on the loan. You've been in the military. They look at everything, right? So it is a benefit that you earned as long as you've done like 180 days active duty, right? And even if you're a reservist and you did a 6-year contract, you would have gone to your basic training. So you would have got a bunch of days racked up. Plus you do the one weekend a month. So typically at year number 6, you're going to qualify for that. But it's no money down. You don't have to put any money down. And the thing is, you do get a lower interest rate compared to, conventional loans. But the thing is also if you're a disabled vet, and this is the part a lot of people don't know, that if you do get that 100% disability in the state of Texas, you don't pay property tax.
Yes, that is so glorious.
Now, that sounds good to say, but what does it effectively mean financially? So the state of Texas, we don't have income tax. We have federal income tax, right? But we don't have state. But we have high property tax. We may not know that because we don't know any better. Like in West Virginia, property tax is not even 0.5%. Out here in this area, for example, Conroe, there's areas it could be up to like 3.3%, right? That's huge. So someone buying a house, maybe it's a $300,000 house. If you're in a tax rate of like 3%, you could be paying like $900 a month in property tax. But if you're a disabled vet, 100%, or if you're 70%, but on your disability certificate, it says unemployable. That's the catch. 70% with unemployable or 100%, then you just save $900 a month in your house payment.
I think Gold Star spouses and family get it too.
Yeah, so that could be a benefit that's passed on to your spouse as well. And then also the funding fee. If you got at least 10% disability, there's a funding fee that's like 2.2%, somewhere around there, that they tack onto your loan. So a lot of veterans say, hey, I got this house for $200,000. Why am I paying like $205,000 back, right? It's because there's a funding fee that they roll into the loan, right? So, but if you got that 10% disability, they're going to waive that, right? And I tell vets that if you are going to apply for disability and you're going to buy a home, submit the disability request first, because the law is as soon as the VA gets it and they file it, right, they'll let you know that we've received your claim. As long as they acknowledge that they received it and you close on a home, you pay that funding fee. Later on, you find out that you did get a rating, the government's going to reimburse that funding fee to you.
And if you are going to apply for disability and stuff to the VA, make sure you do an intent to file first, because that intent to file basically tells them, hey, I'm going to file. This is when you're going to backdate me to. And a lot of people don't even realize that too. They just want to submit the shit and then wonder why their back pay, the retro pay or whatever is not crap.
So what you're saying is let's say you want to file for an issue that you have. You don't have all your medical records and document. That doesn't matter. Go ahead and file the claim, and it will ask you, do you have all your records or do you not have all your records, right? So, but the day you file it, even if it takes 6 months to get your medical records, because it took about 6 months to get mine because during COVID, it was a long time. So even if you filed the intent 6 months later, 2 years later, whatever, they're going to back pay you from the day you filed the claim, not when you was actually approved.
And that back pay can be really substantial, especially if you're going 6 months, a year, 2 years. That intent to file will save people thousands of dollars if they do it. And it's only good for 12 months, though, apparently, is what my control guy's saying. Yeah,
you got to. So the problem is it takes time to get those medical records, right? So I know it took me like 6 months, but you got to get the service record too. That's the two things. You need a medical record and a service record because they got to make sure that everything jives up. But for sure, if you're going to buy a house and you know you're going to buy a house, do the intent now. Get all your paperwork in. But see, what I'm saying is A lot of people say, I want to wait to buy a home until I get the disability rating first so that I can save money on the funding fee. What I'm saying is file the intent now. Close on the home. You're not paying the funding fee out of your pocket because they're putting it in top of your loan. And then by the time you move into your house and you get that claim and it's received, they're going to give you a check. It takes about 6. So in my example, I got tinnitus was my first 10%.
Okay.
I filed for tinnitus. I think I did it like in July of 2020. I closed on a house in August of 2020. And then 30 days after I closed on my house, I got rated 10% for tinnitus. So that $4,600 that they put into my loan, 60 days later, the VA sent me a check back for it. They reimbursed me for it. So don't not go and buy your house because you want to get the rating first is what I'm saying.
Good.
Yeah. And you can buy multiple houses using VA. I've done it many times, and you can buy a house. The law says you got to move in it, occupy it within 60 days. If you got a spouse or a kid, they can occupy it. 60 days, move in it, stay in it for 12 months. After that, you can make it a rental property and then go buy yourself another VA. Right? House on VA, no money down. So there's some rules on the back end that will stop you from, buying multiple homes, right? So, but there's other things that they don't tell you, like a one-time restoration, right? Even if you refinance that VA to a conventional, they're going to say, because you kept that house, we're going to keep an entitlement from you from continuing to buy and flip houses, right? So there is ways that you can restore, get a one-time restoration on that. A lot of little tricks that are hidden in the laws of VA and the home loans. You just got to know the right people to talk to.
That could help a lot of people out.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
I don't know, unless you got something. Dude, I could talk forever, bro.
Oh, I could too. I'm just trying to get you out of here on time. That's my bigger concern.
I got an appointment with an Army vet. It's going to be his first house, so I got to make sure we get it done.
Definitely. And, the same thing goes for you as I tell everyone. If you ever want to come back on, come back on. I mean, we've talked for nearly 2 hours, and it hasn't even felt like 15 minutes. So, I mean, this was actually, I enjoyed this conversation. I got to learn a lot about subs. So, anytime you want to come back on, we're always welcome to have you. So,
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, let's get you out of here and get you to work.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right, buddy.